So why are you guys here? Yet again, this question is coming around. What is the reason for you sitting in this room? What is the reason for you being attracted to a meditation practice? What is the reason for you being inside this body? These are all huge questions, especially that last one. But there's a simplified answer as always. And the simplification of the answer is found in this very moment, which is incredibly simple to understand, but at the same time, it's a little something to ground into, that this very moment is the reason why we're here. We just got to give it a chance, it seems. And as we enable this moment in time to reveal its secret as to why it is so important, then all of a sudden we become bathed with this cooling water, it seems, this understanding, this connection, okay, yes, that's the reason why. But within this moment, it is unique. So every person sitting in the room is actually a very unique experience as to why. And that we have to take into account, most definitely, that you are incredibly unique. And within this unique quality, or within this uniqueness, there is a special talent. I know that might sound funny, but it's true. There's actually a special talent that everyone holds, and I know that people tell us this, but it is just a simple fact. And the talent that each individual holds is not necessarily something spectacular that you're going to share on Instagram and YouTube and all this kind of stuff. It's much more subtle than that. It's the offering, it's the experience within the moment that enables the spark of light to emerge. And that is unique to you. That's very special. No one else can do that the way that you do. There's not a single person. And within that, there's a quality of sensation that feels immaculate, is there not? In that moment of spark of experience. Now that is what we want to really hone in on, because there's so much information that happens in a single moment in time, to the point where sometimes we can feel a little bit overwhelmed and ask the question, well, where do I look? What's important? And I offer that none of it is really that important, other than that spark, that expression, that experience, that incredibly wise, feel-good sensation that will then direct the next moment in time. And we all know and connect to the simple fact that each moment has not only an experience of sensation, but also a decision which needs to be made. So this moment in time will then determine the next moment and how my mind is framed, so then I can make that decision, whatever that decision is, and there's so many of them. So it's this simplification of the reason why we're here down to a single moment in time, which then ideally is put into a depth of exploration, which we call meditation. So we're really looking at the moments as they pass from a sensory deprivation perspective. Now we are minimizing the amount of input that's coming in, so we can maximize the amount of understanding that we're finding from within. Less input from the outside, greater input from the inside. So that then when it comes time to experience the moments of your day with your eyes open, expressing from the outside, we're much more well equipped. And this ability, which comes from our anchored, very well equipped position, is a sweetness of innocence that is yourself. I don't want to get too gushy or anything, but there's a sweetness of the innocence that is within yourself. And that's what we present to this reality that we see around us. I believe strongly that you are very good people. I'm a good person. And within this goodness, there is nothing but positivity that comes back to us. But then someone can argue, well, if I'm so good and I'm so soft and special, well, then why do all of these challenges come towards me? So it's a slight reframing of the challenge to maybe look at the challenge as not being that, but rather being an opportunity. Not a negative, but actually a positive. Not a bad, but in actuality a good. And that's from every experience that happens within a moment. So we just take it moment by moment and assessing the reality, the truth of what it is. We have been talking quite a bit about the psychology side and how this psychology is a little bit tricky. So there's some interesting biases that come with being a human. One of them is this lean towards negativity. We've been talking about how it's not a bad thing either, because that negativity bias is actually what's been keeping us alive for so long. We say, well, that looks like a tiger, but actually it's a sand dune of some kind, or a lion and it's a sand dune of some kind. So that misunderstanding is actually what keeps us here. But if in fact you feel that the negative bias is no longer needed inside of you, now that's a different story. Quite potentially, we are evolving out of it. We've been discussing this also, evolving out of that negative bias. And the question, I guess, is then how? How do we evolve out of that into a more positive frame of mind, but not from a position of just simply positive thinking, while we have a negative wheel going at the same time, but rather going right down to the very root and beginning to shift how we experience the moment as it arises, just moment by moment by moment. And that comes from a position of decision. And that decision is then strengthened through the practice of meditation. How? By getting to that sweetness that exists within you, that spark. As the moments are arising, there's a sensation. And we really want to harness that sensation, that quality, and allow it to grow and really protect it no matter what. We must protect it. And sometimes we're a bit soft. So we're strong but soft at the same time as human beings. We get pushed around on the inside because often we feel like our mind is more powerful than we are. Am I wrong in saying that? But it's this continuous again and again and again until it fully clicks that you are actually the one who is the observer. You are actually the one who is the experiencer. Your mind is the tool. Your mind is the tool which is showing you how you are experiencing your reality. So if there's a shift that needs to be made, now is the time. Now is the time. And I could just keep doing that for the rest of the evening. Now is the time. Now is the time, because these are the moments that are going by, and these are the decisions that we need to make over and over and over again, that now is the time. Patanjali talks about this within his sutras. It's once everything else has been exhausted, and hopefully that is the case for you. You're just kind of tired. And maybe that's why you're here. You're just done with it. And you've tried it all, but now it's time. So now we engage with ourselves in a new way. Using the developmental steps and stages found within a meditation practice. We do this so that then we can get to know ourselves on a more intimate level without distraction. Again, this is why we close our eyes and create, on purpose, sensory deprivation. We are no longer distracted. We have nothing to do. No one is talking to us. We only have our mind to deal with, that is filtering or running through its course until it has nothing left to say. And within that moment in time, we can just simply start to rest. Now, what does rest feel like? What does rest look like in its dynamic form? Can you show me? How restful can you become now? In order to find an experience of rest, we must of course be comfortable. In order to rest, we must of course have relaxation. So it's about becoming comfortable and relaxed with every experience that is occurring, and being able to rest into the space which it provides. No matter what this negative bias or this chatter has to say, because we've determined that it is no longer needed. So now this is something very real. This is practical psychology. Imagine what happens when you're able to become comfortable with everything, with every person, place, and thing. What happens when you can just simply be relaxed in every circumstance and situation that you're in? I wasn't always this relaxed, you know. Or this patient. I say that with a laugh because, of course, with patience, there's impatience, and with impatience, there's patience. So it's about becoming friends with both, not just one. So again, I ask you, why is it that you're here? What is it that you wish to understand about yourself through the practice of meditation? Can you define it yet? And oftentimes, there's not even a word, but there's just a knowing or a feeling. We don't have to attach words to anything. If you know, well then you know. The reason why I'm inquiring is because it begins to bring meaning and purpose into your meditation experience. So that those days that you say, I don't really want to do it, doesn't happen. Because there's a reason why you're doing it. There's true purpose there. The reason why it's so important to establish meaning and purpose into a meditation so that then we consistently do it is because that it relies on consistency. Because it is, like anything, a muscle, your mind. So you've worked out and strengthened your mind, conditioned it to do specific things, just like a very specific sport. So some sports develop legs, some sports develop arms. Rare do you find sport that will develop the body evenly. But life is the same way. Your mind develops one way or the other way depending upon that which you're introducing, that which you feel is important, that which how you've trained your mind. The unwinding ability is just as real as the conditioning and strengthening ability. It works the same as your physical experience. So if I'm holding on to this object and I just tell myself, hand, let it go. And then nobody even thinks a second thing about it. That's it. I just did it. But when I was a little baby, quite potentially I could not actually do that. I would just squeeze it. There's no cognitive understanding as to how I will say, let it go. Someone had to teach me. I taught myself. But now it's like nothing. So the same ability happens on the inside, but potentially you are just a little one in your understanding of how immaculately immense the capability is that you have inside the mind. That you can truly just simply or say, shh, it's time for quiet now. And then everything just goes, silence. So to take that into consideration, that you are still a junior in some way, is this perpetual studentship that yoga promotes, that meditation promotes, because there is always a higher level that we will be working towards as human beings. It seems like there's going to be no end. So in that, there's always something to be developing, something to be learning, something to be letting go of. Because it would be kind of strange if I still wore my baby shoes on my big toe. It would be odd. But in the same way, some are holding on to experiences that happened when they were so young. It doesn't even fit anymore. It doesn't fit your life, does not fit your lifestyle, does not fit the relationships or the aspirations that you have now. And this is not a bad thing. This is actually just a developing thing. But it's hot on the radar right now in the world. Everybody is going through something. I don't know if you've noticed in yourself if it's kind of hot in there at times. But this is a big topic out there in the world. How is it that we're going to move past this particular holding point into that next level where we can take big breaths of fresh air and feel free? It's happened so many times in the past. And I'm sure that these moments that we're experiencing is no different. So that 100 years down the road, or 200 or even 300 years down the road, they will look back and say, wow, those guys had it. Quite the challenge. They had all this mind stuff that they were working on, dealing with, this psychology stuff, and holding to the past, like little baby shoes that they're putting on their big toes. Just like 300 years ago, there were people doing all kinds of things that now we say, well, that's kind of silly. I'm totally past that. So you are the active ingredient within it right now, which is incredible. So it's two-part. It's one part personal, but the other part collective. So what we are doing now for ourselves is benefiting us so much. in an increased capacity, the more that we begin to recognize the power of our own awareness, the ability that exists there, that this pure witness is actually encoded with very specific information that is for your growth and for your development. The challenges that you experience within your psychology can actually be cured fully, no longer looking back, through the techniques of meditation. And this is not just Rameen saying it, but it's a shared understanding for thousands of years through meditation and wisdom tradition, but now also shared by science. They're going, wow, they can't believe that this simple thing called meditation is having such a profound effect on the body physically and on the body mentally. And then targeting this meditation stuff to things that are very challenging, like pain management. So pain management is something really real. Why? Because we are emotional creatures. So pain management happens from the body, but you are also experiencing pain of the heart. You are also experiencing pain of the emotion. And this is all very positive things. So we're learning how to recognize the qualities of challenge, of pain in such a way that it's no longer a negative, but it's actually right on purpose, right on time. There's a logic to it. There cannot be a completely random experience that we call your person, where you are exclusively being picked on by the world, or you are having these challenges just for you. It's not possible. So the flip side of that is that we incur these experiences to enable us to actually grow, to evolve. In sometimes messy ways. So oftentimes people present themselves one way outwardly on Instagram, and then a completely different way inwardly. So they're walking around all healthy and good, and then they go home and they just crumble. We want to ideally minimize that within ourselves, but also within that collective peace. If we find comfort within the body, then we have a greater opportunity to connect to comfort as a sensation in every single moment of the day. If we can become comfortable with who we are and why we're here, this is an incredible opportunity.